In my TikTok bio, it says that we live in a simulation, and a lot of people question me. What do I mean by we live in a simulation? And I'm going to tell you what I mean in this video. What I don't mean is that we live in a video game, we live in some sort of like simulated reality, right? That's not what I mean. What I mean by we live in a simulation is that everything we are told is a lie, and generally speaking, is the opposite. What it goes back to for me is the Titanic. Start of the Titanic. What happened with the Titanic? Well, we're told that it sank and it hit an iceberg accidentally. Realistically speaking, it's more likely because there were opponents of the establishment of the Federal Reserve on the Titanic, and therefore it was sabotaged. Now, bring it forward slightly. Let's talk about World War II history. A lot of that we have been lied to about, things like the H course. Not that I'm an H course denier, but that I might question the narrative of the H course. We talk about the moon landing, for example. Do I believe that man set foot on the moon? Well, there are many reasons to say that didn't happen. The JFK unaliving, we're told, who did that and maybe the reasons or the intentions behind it, when if you just dig like a tiny little bit deeper, you kind of get to see this very sinister plot to enable a certain country to have nuclear facilities without it being inspected, and other things like not registering as a foreign agent. The Cold War, why did the Cold War happen? What was the meaning of the Cold War? Why did we and the Americans invade these Middle Eastern countries? What happened in 9/11? Who was really responsible for 9/11? What happened during COVID? Was it a man-made pandemic? Well, we were told that it came from someone eating a bat soup or some shit in China. Realistically speaking, is that true? Vaccines. Are vaccines effective? Are they safe for humans? Are they beneficial? Should we actually be using them? Should children and babies be getting injected with all of these things that are very questionable? The mental health industry, the antidepressants. We're told that antidepressants work because depression is a chemical imbalance, which is it's just the opposite. There are, sun cream. We're told to wear sun cream because that's going to protect us from the sun, when in reality it's just doing a lot more harm than good. So many elements to the simulation, so many layers. We're told to eat certain foods. Certain foods are good for us, certain foods are bad for us, except for the fact that it's all a lie. We're told that eating too much red meat is bad. Realistically speaking, is it though? We're told that there's no cure for the big C. We're told that ivermectin and fenbendazole are dangerous and you should never use them to treat the big C. We're told that chemotherapy is what is the best option for something like the big C. They're keeping us sick, they're keeping us dependent, and they're keeping us misinformed about how we can really treat these diseases and illnesses. We're told that skincare products are great for your skin and they're not going to make the situation worse. We're told that you should put things in your hair, all of these shampoos and conditioners that you find in the store that are actually just doing more damage to your hair, so that they can then sell you the solution for the damage that you have inflicted on your hair. We're told that feminism is about equal rights for men and women, when in reality it's much more about destabilizing the nuclear family, getting women into the workplace, getting them away from the family, and making it so that it's much more difficult for people to have families. We're told that the inflation rate is 2% or 3%, when in reality it's more like 20% or 30%. Told that we have a free and fair democracy and that we can elect leaders and they will represent us, when in reality we just have a one world establishment government, and the leaders that we elect are actually just puppets, actors, acting on behalf of the one world government and the one world agenda. And we're told that multiculturalism and cultural enrichment is fantastic. Flood your country with TW immigrants and watch the cultural enrichment flourish. It's a lie. So generally speaking, what I mean by we live in a simulation is everything we are told is a lie, and not only that, it's the reverse. The more and more that you realize that everything is a lie, the more and more you withdraw your brain from the simulation. I mean, even down to the weather. The weather is manipulated. The weather is fake. We're told that climate change is real, and that, when there's flooding over Spain, it's the changing of the climate, and in reality it's because they are using solar geoengineering and cloud seeding, and they are intentionally destroying these communities, and that it's actually climate change, and so therefore everything is a lie. And that's what I mean really by everything. We live in a simulation, everything is a lie, everything is backwards and reversed, and there are other examples I'm sure I've missed in this video, but that's it really, just everything is a lie and backwards. And once you start withdrawing your brain from the simulation, then you don't stop. It's kind of like taking the red pill. It's like the Matrix, right? People might talk about the Matrix or the red pill. When you take the red pill, the truth is there and unfolding, but which is part of it, yeah, and that's true. So yeah, that's it really, and I hope that helps. Hope you understand.